Okay, everybody, we're back with my mom, Bess Dierenfeld Plosker. I always start by saying how old you are because I want people to realize how amazing you are. So rather than telling them how old you are, we're going to do some mathematics. So here's my first question to you, Mom. How many years ago were you involved in starting your women's group?
75 years.
And how old were you when you started that?
21.
Do the math, people. Do the math.
I go back a long time.
What is the function of Na'amat, the group that you do belong to?
What is the purpose?
Yeah, the purpose, the function of that group. What do you do?
We want to empower women and children. We have many daycare centers, agricultural schools. We're involved in many aspects of women's lives in Israel. And we also do work in Canada as well. And we work with the women's shelters in Israel and in Canada, because violence against women is rampant, particularly today during the virus. So our functions are many, and we look after hundreds of children. And as a matter of fact, some of the daycares now are opening up in Israel so that the children can go back to school. And so that is our function, really. We believe in social justice and work with the women and children.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's interesting for people to know. 75 years ago, started at 21, and this group still functions. Your particular chapter still functions.
Yes. As a matter of fact, it's interesting. We're a group 90 to 102. A lot of them are not well. I can't say that they're all in perfect condition. However, having said that, we do the best we can. We have had luncheons where we may have 12, 13 people out. We still raise a lot of money. We're still interested in what's going on. And we try to keep as active as we possibly can.
So I'm going to shift gears with you for a moment. You have been supporting women and children literally the entirety of your adult life.
Yes.
But you were once a new parent. You raised 3 boys, but I remember the story of that first boy, my oldest brother, that his teeth were late in coming in. Do you remember that story?
What was that again?
You were once a young parent. And I remember the story you would tell of Lorne, that his teeth weren't coming in. And you went to the pediatrician.
Oh, yes. Yes. As a young parent, there was a lot of fear. And every little thing was magnified. So that when I saw that Lauren was not getting, his teeth weren't coming in. I went to the pediatrician and I said I was worried. And the pediatrician says, you know, I've never had to give a baby a false set of teeth. He says, so don't worry, they will come in. Later on, I had another episode with him. I figured he wasn't growing fast enough in height. I went back to the doctor and the doctor says, don't worry, don't worry. By the time he's 18 years old, he will be tall. So I had a lot of fun with him. He was a terrific pediatrician.
Yeah, I remember that pediatrician, Silverthorne.
Dr. Silverthorne, I will never forget him. He was
Yeah.
fabulous. He was fabulous.
I remember we used to go in for our vaccines, our vaccinations, and we'd be there with our bare top, and he'd be there ready to give you a needle. He'd give you a slap on the back, and just as you go, ouch, then he gives you the jab.
He was a fabulous, fabulous pediatrician.
Yeah, I remember that fondly. Someone else might hear that experience and think that's awful, but it was a good experience, actually.
But raising three children, 3 years apart, but I must say that you were all very good.
Well, the older two were.
No, you were. I didn't have too much trouble with the three of you. I remember one episode, mind you, when the three of you had the mumps together at the same time.
That must have kept you busy.
That was a handful.
What advice, Mom, what advice would you give to parents of children, young children, now who are managing at home, maybe worried about a loved one who's an essential worker? Some kids are having challenges with school. What advice would you give to parents today?
You know, it's a whole different world today. And how we raise children when you were growing up is completely different today. There was a book published in the 50s, in the 40s, giving you all the instructions of how to raise a child. And that we went by that book. We did everything according to the book. In today's world, that book was completely outdated. There's a different way of raising children today than how we raised them. So to give you any suggestions, recommendations, I think how you raise children today is much different and probably better. Probably better in certain aspects.
Like what?
In certain ways.
How is it better today, do you think, than when you were raising us?
You know, that's a good question. I really can't answer that particularly.
Okay.
I think today, hopefully, I know the father is more involved with the children.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
I think that's a big difference. Um, and I don't know, I really can't.
When you say the father is involved, I think people watching this video might be surprised to learn that, again, with your oldest son, my oldest brother, Lorne, you broke your back shortly after his birth, and that necessitated Dad being involved.
Oh, those were very different times to today. I think I was in bed for about 9 months after Lauren was born. And they would never do that today. They wouldn't keep you in bed for 9 months. And I wore a steel brace for 2 years from my shoulders down to my hip. And living in a flat, we didn't have our own homes or condominiums. They were flats in somebody else's home. So you had 2 rooms in someone else's home. That's called a flat. And you shared a bathroom. So the times different, completely different. But you still raised fabulous children. I can't say it was easy because a lot of people came back from overseas at that time. And a lot of the husbands went back to university and they were studying. And your father had to study at night and look after the baby at night. And there was no diaper service or any of that like there is today. So you had to wash your own diapers. It was not, looking back, I say, gee, it was not easy. It's different. Those times are different than they are today.
But here's my takeaway from this discussion. Parenting may be different. Okay. But it's not like there aren't hardships at any time that people have to cope with.
There are hardships all the time in different ways, different hardships. Today isn't easy for young parents. Today is very difficult. And you sometimes wonder, what kind of world? I wonder at my age, what kind of world am I leaving to my children and grandchildren? And that worries me a lot. As it worries a lot of parents in my age.
Well,
a lot of uncertainty.
Yes, yes. I'll tell you though, you're a rare one. You're extraordinary. For 75 years, you have been part of a women's group organization, improving the lives of women and children and thus families. For 75 years, Mom. Thank you.
Yes. I have done a lot of things in my life. I have a lot of stories to tell.
You know what? I'm going to cut you off there because I want to save some of those stories for another video chat.
Okay.
But let me tell you, and those who are listening, I keep wanting people to have a sense of how extraordinary you are. I know you don't see yourself as extraordinary.
No.
I do, and countless others do as well. And I just think that you're a living example of how to live life, how to live a life and how to continuously give back to your community?
That, I think I owe my longevity, first of all, to belonging to Na'amat. It gives you a purpose in life, and you must live life with a purpose. I can't stress that enough. And you must keep informed, learn. You're always learning. You never know enough. There's always more to learn. And also help others wherever you can. Because by helping others, you're really helping yourself.
Thank you for that. I think those are good, really good parting messages for people to take away from this conversation. Mom, I will speak to you again later. I love you.
I love you too. I thank God, and I feel very blessed for my children.
We know.
I love you.
Bye, Mom.
Bye.